Hello my dear friends, welcome to Top Scholars. Today we'll be discussing about functional groups in carbon compounds. So now friends, let's discuss what do we mean by functional groups, right? Functional groups are specific substituents or atoms which are bonded in a specific type of arrangement which is also responsible for the characteristic physical and chemical properties of the molecules. Confusing, right? Okay, let's make it a bit simple. Functional groups are certain substituents or atoms which are bonded in such an arrangement, right, which actually is the one which is responsible for the properties of the substance, right? So these functional groups are simply certain substituents or atoms which are actually bonded in a specific type of arrangement, right? And these functional groups are the ones which actually give the characteristic physical and chemical properties to that substance, right? For example, functional groups like alcohols, amines, aldehydes, and many functional groups, right? Now friends, if we talk about carbon, we know that carbon has a versatile nature, right? Carbon can form bonds with other carbon atoms. Carbon can also form bonds with hydrogen, right? And we know about hydrocarbons, right? Hydrocarbons are compounds which contain hydrogen and carbon, right? But friends, apart from bonding with hydrogen, carbon can also bond with atoms of other elements. For example, carbon can form bonds with atoms of elements of halogens, nitrogen, sulphur, as well as oxygen. Now what happens is, atoms of these elements, they actually replace hydrogen atoms present in these hydrocarbons, right? And so atoms of these elements which actually substitute hydrogen from the hydrocarbons, they are called as heteroatoms. So what do these heteroatoms do? These heteroatoms, they substitute the hydrogen atoms present in the hydrocarbon, right? And these heteroatoms are the ones which actually are responsible for the characteristic physical and chemical properties of the compound that is so formed, right? Now friends, these heteroatoms are the ones which are referred to the functional groups, right? So functional groups are simply the heteroatoms, right, which substitute hydrogen atoms in the hydrocarbons, or functional groups can also be a group of these heteroatoms, right, which are responsible for the physical and chemical properties of the compounds, right? So that is what is functional group. So functional group simply consists of heteroatoms or groups of these heteroatoms, or I can say groups of atoms which contain heteroatoms, which are responsible for providing the characteristic physical and chemical property to the substance. So what are heteroatoms? Heteroatoms are atoms of elements such as halogen, nitrogen, sulphur, and oxygen which substitute hydrogen atoms present in the hydrocarbons, right? So let's discuss some of the common functional groups in organic chemistry. So we have alcohols, carboxylic acids, carbonyls, esters, and amines. So let's first discuss about haloalkanes. Now friends, what are haloalkanes? Haloalkanes are carbon compounds which contain the heteroatom X. What is X? X here stands for halogen atom, right? So haloalkanes are formed when one of the hydrogen atoms of the alkane is replaced by this halogen atom that is represented by capital X, right? For example, here you can see the general formula of a haloalkane, which is represented by R single bond X. Here R represents the alkyl group and X represents the halogen atom, right? That is the heteroatom, right? So over here you can see we have the alkane RH, right? And what happens over here is one of the hydrogen atoms of this alkane gets replaced by the halogen atom, right? So the alkane gets converted into haloalkane, right? Which is also called as alkyl halide. To learn more about this topic, download Top Scholars app.